The morning sun bathed the quiet streets of Oakwood Grove in a golden haze, palm trees swaying gently in the breeze. Birds sang softly, and a sprinkler down the block spun lazy arcs of water, scattering rainbows across a pristine lawn. Daniel Harper, a retired Navy SEAL, stood barefoot on his front porch, the warm wood grounding him as he cradled a steaming mug of black coffee. His eyes followed his 16-year-old daughter, Emily, as she glided on her rollerblades, her laughter echoing through the cul-de-sac. Her dark braid whipped behind her, denim shorts and a faded blue tee catching the light as she spun, carefree and radiant. Every few seconds she tossed a playful grin his way, and Daniel's heart swelled. After years of missions in shadowed corners of the world, this moment peace, family, simplicity was his greatest treasure. Neighbors waved from their yards, a Labrador barked behind a picket fence, and the scene felt almost too perfect, fragile as glass. Daniel sipped his coffee, memorizing the warmth of the moment. Then, a screech of tires shattered the calm, slicing through the air like a blade. His head snapped toward the sound, instincts flaring before his mind could catch up. A black SUV, windows tinted to an ominous void, roared around the corner and skidded to a stop beside Emily. Doors flew open, and two men in dark tactical uniforms leaped out, moving with chilling precision. Their boots pounded the pavement as they charged toward her, faces grim, bodies coiled with purpose. To an untrained eye, they might pass for cops, but Daniel's years in the SEALs told him otherwise. No badges, no body cams, no marked vehicle. His stomach plummeted, his VY shone narrowing to a razor's edge. Something was horribly wrong. Emily froze, her rollerblades locking as the men closed in. One barked a command, his voice sharp but garbled in the chaos. The coffee mug slipped from Daniel's hand, exploding into shards across the porch. He didn't flinch. He was already moving, his body a machine honed by years of facing death. His daughter was in danger, and nothing else existed. The world slowed, sounds muffling as his hand found the pistol holstered at his hip, a tool he'd hoped never to need in this sleepy suburb. He sprinted across the lawn, heart pounding not with fear but with a primal, unstoppable drive to protect. In a heartbeat, the men lunged. They seized Emily's arms, yanking her off balance with brutal force. She stumbled, crying out, but they didn't hesitate, slamming her to the asphalt with a sickening thud. Her scream, raw, terrified, ripped through Daniel's chest, freezing him for a fraction of a second that felt like forever. One man twisted her arms behind her back, forcing her face into the rough pavement. The other pinned her down, his knee pressing into her spine. She gasped, struggling, but they treated her like a threat, not a child. Neighbors stood paralyzed on their lawns, phones in hand but unmoving, uncertainty etched on their faces. Were these officers? Was this legal? No one dared intervene. Daniel had no such doubts. His training surged to life, adrenaline flooding his veins. In one fluid motion, he drew his weapon, leveling it at the men with a grip as steady as stone. His voice thundered across the street, a command forged in battle. Let her go. Now. The men flinched, their momentum faltering. Confusion flickered in their eyes. They'd expected compliance, not resistance. One reached for something at his belt, a subtle shift Daniel caught instantly. He didn't wait. His finger squeezed the trigger, and a shot cracked the morning air, the bullet striking the ground inches from their boots, kicking up dirt. The message was clear: one more move, and there'd be no second warning. The men stumbled back, hands shooting into the air, babbling excuses about mistaken identity, following orders. Daniel barely heard them. His eyes locked on Emily, crumpled on the pavement, coughing and reaching for him. The sight of her pain, her fear, carved into him deeper than any wound he'd ever taken. He stepped forward, positioning himself between her and the men, his pistol unwavering. On your knees. Hands where I can see them, he ordered, his voice low and final. They obeyed, dropping HVYLY, their apologies meaningless. The neighborhood fell silent, neighbors peeking from behind cars, some recording, too scared to approach. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder as red and blue lights flashed into VYEW. Daniel didn't lower his weapon until real officers swarmed the scene, shouting commands. Only then did he step back, the fire in his chest still burning. Emily was safe, but the peace of Oakwood Grove was gone forever. In the hospital's sterile waiting room, time blurred under the harsh buzz of fluorescent lights. Daniel sat, hands clenched, knuckles white, as doctors worked behind closed doors. When a nurse finally called him, each step toward Emily's room felt heavier than the last. She lay curled in a hospital bed, pale and small, wires snaking from her arms. Her eyes, red from tears, met his, and she forced a trembling smile, trying not to worry him. It broke him in a way no battlefield ever had. The doctor's words hit like blows: 6 fractures in her lower back, compression injuries, severe bruising. Months of recovery, maybe longer, with risks of nerve damage and mobility issues. Emily whimpered, wincing as she shifted, and Daniel's hand hovered near hers, helpless. He wanted to fix this, to shield her from the world, but all he could do was stay. And it wasn't enough. Those men thugs in fake uniforms, hired by the HOA led by Victor Lang, a wealthy businessman, had done this. Daniel's anger hardened into resolve. They would answer for it. Days later, the truth began to unravel. Police reports were filed, witnesses spoke, and Emily's injuries were documented, but justice stalled. Calls went unanswered, meetings were delayed, and officials grew cagey. Victor Lang issued a statement, calling the attack a misunderstanding, praising his security volunteers, and urging healing. There was no apology, only lies to protect his influence. Daniel recognized the playbook power shielding itself. He'd seen it in war zones, but not here, behind Oakwood's white fences. He refused to wait. Knocking on neighbors' doors, he gathered stories of other teens harassed by Lang's rogue security. Fearful residents whispered of intimidation, and slowly, Daniel built a case: photos, videos, timelines linking back to Lang. A retired teacher shared his findings with her son, a local reporter, and a small article sparked a firestorm. News outlets descended, airing Emily's story and exposing the HOA's dark underbelly. Daniel became a symbol, his quiet resolve shattering the silence. The sheriff's department launched a VYEW, and under public pressure, the fake officers were arrested for assault and impersonation. Investigations uncovered illegal contracts and hidden HOA funds. Lawsuits piled up, and politicians distanced themselves from Lang, who resigned in disgrace, facing conspiracy charges. In court, Emily's testimony, steady, unflinching, sealed the case. The officers were convicted, and Lang's empire crumbled. Months later, Emily, scarred but unbroken, spoke at town halls, advocating for safer communities. Her voice filled rooms, commanding attention from leaders once blind to truth. Daniel watched from the back, pride and awe swelling in his chest. What began as a father's fight had grown into a movement. True justice wasn't just punishment, it was ensuring no child would suffer again. As Emily stood tall, her strength a beacon, Daniel knew this was the VY Tory that mattered most.